suddenly you're interacting with somebody who maybe you wouldn't have agreed with once upon a time, and immediately you start to judge them, and you're like, I don't actually know this person. They're not just the person they're showing me right now. This is just what they're working through. And suddenly your judgment just disappears because you recognize that they're not the image that you've created of them, and that a lot of their suffering comes from them trying to be an image that they've created of them. And so you find yourself in this place of incredible empathy at the end of the day, because you recognize where your own suffering and your own limitations and your own um, obstacles really came from, where your pain really was rooted, or at least where it's been maintained and perpetuated over time. And you start to realize that everybody's kind of doing the same thing in this mass avoidance of recognizing that we're all equally uncertain, that we're all just equally the present, trying to determine what that means about us, and how best to interact in that reality. So we come up with a story about ourselves, about our body and our narrative and what's possible and what's not. And we come up with a story about human nature and God and everything else. And it's all just us trying to feel like we know what's happening. And in our urge to know what's happening, we create a fictitious world. And that fictitious world is what perpetuates our conflict and our suffering, because the fiction is based on our lack of clarity, right? It's based on the narrative. It's based on our perceived division. And so once you recognize you're not divided, once you recognize you're not your idea of yourself, then it would seem foolhardy to judge somebody or to try and tear them down, in the same way that it would be foolhardy to inject yourself with a poison, right? Like, you recognize we're all in this together, and the depth of that goes way beyond anything that you might have meant egotistically, because you recognize that there is no we. It's just you.